The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Welcome to How to Money with Kole and Kole.
I'm Kole.
And I'm Kole.
We coach people every day on their money and how to plan for the future.
As financial advisors, we're here to have an honest conversation on investing, retirement, and everything in between.
At Full Swing Financial Planning, we're here to empower you to take control of your plan, your way, for your financial future.
So let's talk money.
And sports.
Welcome back to How to Money with Kole and Kole. I'm your host, Baileigh Ashbrook, and I just have to say this, you gentlemen, if you guys are watching YouTube, you look nice today. You've upped your dress-up game for the podcast.
Very dapper today.
You guys can't do that. You can't both show up looking,
Well, we were both talking about it. We were like, we both wear polos and like quarter zips almost every day. And
I know, that's why I got my quarter zip.
We have all these like button downs in our closet and I never wear them. So
They're getting dust on them because I haven't worn them. I'm like, I got like 3 I wear when I wear a suit or something, but I'm like, gosh, this was from the very far end of the closet.
Fancy.
Molly actually bought these for me.
I was just going to say, did your wife pick your shirts out?
You got to vary up your wardrobe a little bit. And I'm like, okay.
Molly's fancy though.
Variations of blue. That's all I got in gray.
All blue.
Blue and gray.
Blue and gray. Well, it's golf season. The weather's nice. It's baseball season. Cole's all
Baseball.
giddy.
Cubs are in first place. I'm excited. It was a fun time to watch them. I went there for a little bit of a weekend and got
Easter
2
weekend.
out of 3. So
Yeah, Easter weekend, yeah. And then we just got done with our 5K, 1K. Cole, you want to wrap that up? That was so fun.
It was awesome. It was it's a first for our team, and it was great to partner with Children's Cancer Connection and then the Fort Dodge Golf Academy here in Fort Dodge. But it was great just to see my favorite part was just seeing,
kids.
We saw all of our kids, our boys, Kole and I's boys, they literally, were playing while the 5K was going on. They had found a pop bottle, a tennis ball or something, and they had a pickup game of baseball going on the driving range. There's kids running everywhere.
It was cool.
Yeah, great course. We had a lot of volunteers. The weather turned out perfect. So
for April in Iowa.
Yeah, most of all, the best thing was just to see the camaraderie to raise some money for a great cause. So proud of our team and look forward to. I think we all look forward to building on it for years to come.
Improving and growing it. But I had a great time.
It was awesome. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to the Fort Dodge Country Club for allowing us to hold it out there. But yeah, it was when I was driving the cart in front of the kids for the 1K, but Steve was up in the golf shop and he said, when you saw those kids take off running, it was just something. So I was driving the golf cart with my dad, and my dad's like, you better pick up speed.
Yeah, some of
kids
those
took
kids
off pretty hot.
I told them, I was like, you got to pace yourself here. This isn't a full sprint, but they were cute. They were competitive. Yeah,
it was fun. It was fun to see them, and the kids had a great time. So it was awesome.
And then we had adults too, and that one guy, I won't say his name, but blazed through what did he 17 minutes and something?
No, 15.
15, yes. 15,
now it wasn't a true 5K. I'm going to work on that for next year. Again, first year it was a little short. So it was a little under 3 miles is what people were telling me.
Yeah.
But he ran 15 36. So he's running 5-minute miles.
He was Luke goes in the first 30 seconds. Luke's my husband. He goes, yeah, I'm good. Like I'm not keeping up with this guy. Like he knew right away.
The next closest were 17 minutes. Luke and that kid from high school kids. So he was 2 minutes ahead of everybody. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, great event. Look forward to doing it again. So you guys ready for today's topic?
Let's do it.
10 budgeting mistakes that cost you thousands.
It happens a lot.
I think obviously budgeting is one of the most powerful tools in your financial toolbox, but it is easy either not to do it, to get it wrong, to not underestimate what you're going to spend, which is very common, or just not even know what's coming in. Like, what do I make? Where's it going? So let's talk through these points. Number 1, Kole, not budgeting at all.
Yeah, that's not a good strategy. Just kind of winging it and going month to month and seeing if you have enough at the end of the month is not a great strategy. one thing with this is, and it's common for us, when I ask people what they make and they don't have any idea.
I know.
They're like, I make like, $28 an hour. And I'm like, well, no, like what do you make a month?
What are you netting to? What are you actually bringing home? Because that's what we're going to budget off of.
Right. And when you don't know actually how much you make, it's hard to do a budget, and it's hard for you to live within your means. So when it comes to buying a new house, buying a car, buying these things, you got to know what payments you can afford to do that. Well, if you're not budgeting and you don't know payments, then you're winging it. And then if you figure out 6 months into when you bought a $500,000 house,
that's like 40% of your income payment.
Yeah, that doesn't fit into your budget, then you're in a really big pickle.
I think a lot of people think it's restrictive.
Yes, I was just
that's why they don't want to budget. They're like, I don't want to limit myself, but if really budgeting is just being aware of, hey, how much can I spend? And maybe sometimes it's the opposite effect of like, I can spend a little more on this area or something. Maybe it's your health or whatever it might be. It's just a matter of educating yourself on where your dollars are actually going.
Yeah, don't wing it. It's not restrictive. And also, like, I either hear I'm intimidated, like it's overwhelming, or I just make enough money and I'm good. I don't need to budget. But it's not a strategy. We want you to know what you're making and where it's going.
Making good money and not needing a budget. Okay. I understand that you usually always have enough at the end of the day, but you're probably not saving enough because you don't know where your money is always going. So it's probably something that's restricting your ability to save effectively.
Or just align, where do you really want your money to go and how do you really want to enjoy it? You know what I mean?
I think you can dig deeper if you're a person that says that, like, hey, I make quite a bit of money, I got a lot of free cash flow, whatever it is. But it's probably digging deeper on, well, what do you really want to accomplish with your money then?
Yes.
Maybe you can do it faster, right?
Yes.
So that's where it's just having a deeper thought process on that.
I like that.
Okay, number 2, not budgeting for non-monthly expenses. Someone explain that to me.
I love the quote here.
Yeah.
Oh crap! It's car registration month again. So
property taxes or whatever it might be.
Use that example.
Yeah. There are things that come up that are not your monthly.
They're just once a year.
Not your rent or mortgage payment. It's not your water bill. There's things that are once a year or twice a year or 3 times a year that you also have to budget for, because in those months you're going to have to make those payments. So instead of putting them on a credit card, you should have that money put aside that you can use that money for. But car registration is a great example, because that one always kind of sneaks up on me too, and like, oh crap, it's November, I got to pay that.
I always say Christmas is not a surprise.
Yep. So think of having, funds set aside. Everyone should have their emergency fund, right? That's for the oh crap, but
my roof caved in.
Yes,
my
something
car
emergency. Your fridge
my
went out.
My kid's sick and I can't work.
Whatever it might be, but think of like, hey, back to school expenses. You need school clothes, school shoes, holidays,
life
birthdays,
payment.
Yeah, things there, and that's where having a example would be like a sinking fund or something that's separate than your emergency savings. That, hey, this is our bucket or budget that we have for those extra items that do come up throughout the year. And if you have a budget set out, or a kind of an annual budget or monthly budget, think on a month by month basis. Okay, what things happen in this month? If you don't escrow your property taxes, they're twice a year. Your insurance payments, they might be annually instead of monthly, just depending on that. But when Christmas is, when school
when
starts.
the birthdays are.
Yeah.
I will say this: if you have never budgeted and it's overwhelming, you are going to miss some things, right? Like, all of a sudden it's going to be September and you forgot something. But don't let that stress you out and you just quit budgeting because you're like, it's overwhelming. Just take a good year and every year kind of track what those bigger expenses were. And then that next year you'll know, like, hey, come this month, I have this coming up. So it's not a surprise.
And I think we should bring this up, Baileigh. This is a service that we offer.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to go about budgeting yourself, doing it yourself,
you want someone to help.
Yeah. Or you want someone to take the data and put it into a budget for you. This is a service that we offer. You can contact us. Obviously there's tons of apps and Excel spreadsheets. You can do it yourself, but if you don't want to do it yourself, this is a service that we offer.
Everyone knows Baileigh loves a good budget, to do a good budget, but yes, good point. Okay. Number 3, underestimating variable spending.
Yeah. I think this is, one of those things that you want to be realistic with yourself on, right? You don't want to set an unrealistic expectation. Example that we had written down for our agenda was, I'll only spend $100 eating out this month. And if you look back the last year, you're like, well, I spent $250 on average every month. It's probably unrealistic that you're going to maintain. Maybe for 1 month you might hit that, but that's part of your lifestyle. and yes, and that might be an area you need to, self-control and cut back. But you really need to, I would say we want to be, you want to be harder on yourself than easier on yourself on that.
I would say food and kids are the ones I always underestimate, especially the kids. Like, I'm like, dang, these little gremlins, like they come out of nowhere. But it's understanding that you're going to spend more, and let's plan for it. Let's not plan for $100 and then we overeat and then our budget's ruined. Like, let's be realistic. But you also might be in a period of your time where you need to only spend $100 on eating out because you're trying to pay out debt, or you're trying to hit other goals. That's how I think tracking it, like actually going in, if it's once a week or bi-weekly, and saying, okay, where am I at with this right now this month? How much have I actually spent on eating out? Eating out, that one will creep up on you real quick.
Oh yes, especially if you have family.
A little bit of that one too is you are going to spend outside of your budget. So put that into your budget. The
miscellaneous cushion.
The miscellaneous cushion, or as far as, hey, I had a good month at work. I'm going to reward myself and buy a new shirt like me and Kole, or something like that.
I'm going to give another plug for kind of our services, but our software that we use for budgeting. We can actually, pull a 12-month history of your banking information with your consent, obviously. And we can set up, monthly allocations on, hey, here's how much is going to be allocated to eating out. And then they'll use AI and it'll code your transactions each month. So when you sign onto the app, it'll show what percentage of that budget you've used. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, hey, my budget's $300 for eating out and I've already spent, $325 since the 15th of the month, you're 100% through your budget and you still have 15 days left. That's where, one, it's accountability tool, and that's where, until you really know what you're spending, it's hard to maybe change some of those habits.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Number 4, not updating your budget regularly.
I think this is something you got to leverage technology. Right?
Oh my gosh. We were just talking about AI before the episode started.
If you're a person like, man, I never have any money, or I can't do this, or I want to do this, and you're not taking any action. Baileigh's made a lot of plugs for free apps, and we have the services, whatever it is. There's a lot of things out there. Now you can probably use AI, stick your, bank statements in AI. It'll probably tell me, what am I spending my money on? It'll probably do all the work for you. But that's one of those things of, and then on a monthly basis, or at least having some type of, just like a goal, you want to have some type of check-in time to see, hey, am I on track, on pace, or do I need to make a mid-year adjustment or an adjustment because this isn't
life
working?
Changes.
Yes.
Yeah. How often do you recommend you review your budget, or review it?
Anytime there's
make
a life,
adjustments?
anytime there's a life change, promotion, job loss.
That'd be like a detailed, like really detailed review.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. But if you're just going through, once you get your budget down and you kind of know your average income and it's a lot easier, and then you can kind of plan it. It gets a little more fun because you're like, okay, July, I have a little extra money. I can wiggle it around here, or I can invest a little more, or I can save a little more. Or
I paid something off. Paid some debt off. Now I have a little more free cash flow.
Yes. Where am I? So let's say I just paid off my car loan. Okay, I'm taking that $300 car payment. Where am I putting it? That would be a good time to adjust, because all of a sudden you just don't want that $300 going nowhere. You want it to go where you want it to go.
Personally, I would say, I don't budget super detailed. I have a very good idea, but I do track my net worth on a monthly basis. And that's something for me just to kind of gauge year over year on, like, I'm
30 seconds. Give the listeners, what is your net worth?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, for them, if they wanted to do their net worth.
Not your personal net worth. How you do that?
Put me on the spot. Okay.
Sweating.
$37 million. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's really what I do is I have, some business interests, partnership interests. I own some real estate, different things. I put all my assets, bank accounts, what I think the value of my assets are. And then that's on the asset column. So the cash I have, my home, my vehicles, my investment accounts. And then I go, what are my liabilities? What are my business liabilities? What are my individual personal liabilities? Whether it's my mortgage, if I got car loans, whatever it might be. And, I basically have a spreadsheet. I'm a spreadsheet guy. It has each entity that I own. It has its own net worth for the business. And then it pulls into my share of that business, whether it's half or quarter, whatever it pulls in. And then I basically just, here's what it was for that month based on my calculation. And I've been doing that for about 4 years now. So I have 4 years worth of trend lines, and I can kind of see if I have a major change I'll either kind of like, what was that major change? Either with something, maybe I sold something or market went crazy, or whatever it might be, or there's a bigger change in value. But then I also know, hey, did it go down or am I trending down? Okay, I'm probably making some poor decisions, or
it lets you evaluate.
Yeah,
Same
maybe I've
thing as
acquired
a
more
budget.
debt.
Yeah.
Maybe I have more debt than what I want to, personal debt. And I'm like, okay, it's an accountability thing. I'm like, hey, we need to refocus because my personal side is doing worse than all the business side. Maybe we're spending too much money as a family.
Because I want the listener to understand your net worth is your assets, what you own versus what you owe. And that's how that's how a budget is going to get you to gain more assets versus liabilities. And that's how you're going to hit goals. And that's why a budget is so important, because it's the day-to-day, the week-to-week stuff, and the net worth's the month-to-month, like you were saying. It all connects.
Sorry, I just want to go back to my question to you, Baileigh. So how often do you recommend people review their budgets? And Kole, how often do you review your net worth statement? Go ahead, Baileigh.
I personally, and it's definitely situational, I don't want people to feel like a budget's controlling, but I personally, real quick, every Friday, check my budget, see where I'm at, what's remaining, what's spending. And then every month I go in and...
Bailey's a little crazy, though.
But it's really quick, though. It's not like I'm on
No, I get it.
Like 10 minutes. Like, we have 3 kids, so when we came back from our trip, I was sick. You guys know this. I was sick for like 2 weeks. And then I went to go look at the budget, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've spent so much money. Because I wasn't, you know what I mean? I just wasn't looking. I was eating out. I was tired. But it's just a way to quickly check in. And then I would say every month in the beginning of the month, I just look at it. Okay, what are we expected to make? And then where do I want it to go? How much is going towards investments, variable expenses, and what expenses do I not have last month that I might this month? And I would say quarterly, I really look at it. Like, am I on track?
I do the same. So I update my stuff monthly, just numbers wise. I don't really think super deeply about it until when I'm doing kind of the next year's goals. So sometime towards the end of the year, maybe it's the beginning of the year, December, January range is when I kind of go through and I'll be, okay, do I need to change anything on my spreadsheets? Or I'm kind of more analyzing of like, okay, what do the numbers actually mean? Did I go up or down throughout the year? I basically have the month totals. They're green or red. So I'm like, okay, positive or negative.
Green or red.
That's all it is. And I go on so I can see how many red months I had. And sometimes it could be as simple as like, we had a 20% correction in the equity market. I have, a decent amount of my net worth in, equities.
Yeah.
So a lot of my liquid assets are down.
They were looking good last year.
But that's where I kind of know that. But then I'm being super, I would say more analytical once a year, but, for a period of time. And that's more to set my future goals and family goals.
Which would lead us to our next point. Number 5, leaving out goals. I don't know where it's all going.
This is probably the number one thing I would say that people that struggle with their budget, struggle with saving, this is what I hear.
Spending, yes.
Well, no, they just don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
They say that hey, I make $80,000 a year and I'm only saving 4% to my 401k and I should be doing more, but I don't know where all my money's going. Okay, well do you have a budget? Well, no. Okay, well that's something that we need to talk about, and we need to see where your money's going, and then we can maybe talk about upping your savings. But most people, what they'll do is they'll up their savings and then make adjustments other places, or they'll go more into debt, which is a bad idea. So that's where I think this is the number one thing. If you don't know what money is coming in, what money's going out, that's a bad idea.
I hear that all the time.
You need to have. I guess you don't need to, but I think it's really important to have some type of goal you're budgeting for.
Yes.
Because otherwise it does just feel like, well, what am I doing this for? But if it's like, hey, your goal is to, whether it's retirement or pay off debt or, send your kids to college, if you don't have a goal, you're leaving out something, how do you know where you're going, right? You need to have something to try to attain, to try to shoot for. Otherwise, it's just, you're just throwing darts at the wall. And
I'm going to take this one further step. Okay. Your goal. Like, I have a goal of having this much saved up for my kids for college, or I have a goal of taking a vacation every other year, or whatever. What's your why? Why are you doing it? What is your purpose behind your money? Like, what do you really value in your life, and what would give you time freedom? It's always money, right? Time freedom, what you really want. So why do you want to send your kids to college? Because I care about their future and the generational health. Why do you want to go on vacation? What like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, really understanding why you want to save that dollar or spend that dollar. I think everyone's different. Like, to me, I might really value having a clean home. So I might pay for a cleaning lady every month, and someone would be like, well, why would you spend money on that? Because I value coming home to a clean home so I can spend more time. You know what I mean? It's really knowing What do you want to do with your money to give the life you want? So like your goals are your why.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.
You know what I hear a lot is, I wish I was taught this sooner. I wish someone would have taught me a budget sooner. I wish someone would have talked to me about investing sooner. You know how you can do that for other people? Like, share, subscribe to this podcast. Honestly, because that's how you're going to get this information out to your friends, your family, your spouse that won't sit down and budget with you. Send them this episode and then you'll be like, thank you, Kole and Kole, for all that great information. But honestly, we appreciate all you listeners, so don't forget to do that. But let's do a little dollars and cents.
Dollar bills, y'all.
You know, we love our surveys.
Love a good stat.
All
Here
right,
comes the stat nerd.
Yep, to pay. Yeah, coming from Nerd Wallet. So there we go, right there. According to this specific survey, 83% of U.S. adults admit to overspending. What do you think are the top 2 overspending categories that people say?
I would say eating out and gifts.
Okay, so of the 83%. 47% was at groceries, or it was 40%. That's the highest category is groceries.
It's a toughie right
and
now.
dining out is 34%.
Okay.
So I
think it's the world we live in, convenience. Don't you think?
Well, think of like DoorDash.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like my, thorn in my side, I would say, in my budget.
Yeah, if you're looking at Cole J's budget.
And I've been better lately.
Turn the net worth statement.
Yeah, completely. It's like, and then and then the convenience of like Apple. I don't know if you guys have Apple Pay.
But
do. Gosh, Apple Pay is so easy. You double click the button, does the face thing, and you bought it. It's shipped to Amazon, your house in 2 days. I'm like, that is too easy to do.
Well, and every food store has an app now too. So.
Well, the funny thing is, like with Apple Pay, one time I paid, I was like, I don't even know what credit card it's going on. It's paid, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, it's already at my house. Yeah. It didn't even hit my bank.
It already showed up. I didn't even pay for it yet.
Oh, it's great.
Oh, I thought you had another stat.
Nope, that's all I have. We're short and sweet today.
I would definitely say groceries too. Obviously, it's unfortunate, but we are also talking about this, like inflation. It's really hard to gauge when you're at the grocery store, when you have kids, when it's just, 2 people, but when you have a family and all of a sudden it's a holiday, Easter groceries caught up to you.
And this is kind of piggybacks why we even thought about this, or I was bringing this up, is really comes down to one, having a plan or having a budget. If you are a person that hey, I'm one of those people who overspend on groceries. Now, yes, you can't control the inflationary costs of groceries. That's out of your control, but you can be planned on, hey, I want to eat out less. So let's be more planned and more strategic when we go to the grocery store. Have an idea, plan your meals out. So like, hey, and you can reward yourself still with, one DoorDash a week or so.
Yeah,
right?
And it's okay to say no to someone.
Or Stella's.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Stella's, we love Stella's. But it's okay to say no to yourself. I think that's where people think the restrictive part is like, I can't go out to eat, but they're eating out. You don't know what's going on in that person's life, and you have different goals and different whys. So just remember that. So number 6, mistake people make, which I personally, when I started budgeting, this was me budgeting with no flexibility.
That surprises me with you, Baileigh. That you'd be so detailed that you wouldn't have any flexibility in your budget.
I think it's my perfectionism. Like, I wanted to hit the goal every time, and if like something was over, I'd get like, I just get so mad.
This is the spreadsheet that Molly, when we had the episode that Molly talked to us about, that I brought to her, because she was like, there's
wiggle room.
There's things that come up, and I'm just like, well, this is what it is. What we have to spend.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah. So through the years, this has evolved for me, as I'm sure it sounds like it's evolved for you, Baileigh. Like I want to go back to what Kole was saying about groceries. Like, if you know that you maybe overspend on groceries some of the time. If you think $500 is going to get you by for the month, budget $600.
Yes.
And then if you're
yourself
under
some buffer,
budget,
right?
then it's all good, right? Then you can move on to the next month. And if you overspend that month, then you're okay because you underspent the month before.
Because you don't want a budget to lead to like guilt, burnout, blowing up. Like all of a sudden it's overwhelming, so I'm just going to go blow it up. But it's just, I was always really guilty. So now I'm just like, okay, if I need to shift around, you know what I mean? If I need to take 200 from this category, put it to this category, if I go over a little, it's more of like a learning thing than a guilt thing.
It's got to be realistic still,
Yes.
right? Everyone
Yes.
has an ideal retirement budget, whatever it might be, to hit this goal. But it's just like someone says, hey, they've never worked out ever in their life. And they're like, I'm going to start going to the gym 7 days a week at 4 a.m. Like, it's just not going to happen.
No.
You've got to start somewhere, be realistic, and then, grow into your budget. Yep.
When I sit down with a couple and I do budgeting for them, and then we end up with an amount that we can invest, what I typically do is I take half of that and I invest it. And the other half, I say, this is your, kind of flexibility with your budget because life does happen, right? And so we don't want to take, if you have $1,000 extra in your budget, we don't want to invest $1,000 a month because now you have no flexibility. Invest $500 and keep that other $500 for flexibility.
Mistake number 7, budgeting from the bottom up instead of the top down. Maybe explain that.
I like this one as well because I think this is what a lot of people do. What they do is they budget and then they save whatever's left over. They don't put the savings inside their budget. They don't automate the savings. And I've said that's the best way to save is make it a bill. It's your retirement bill. Everyone wants to retire, so you've got to save for retirement. So put the money in as a monthly bill that you're putting into your 401k, your IRA, whatever your savings vehicle is. Don't wait till the end of the, we have some people that wait till the end of the year. And if I have money left over, I'll put it in an IRA. Well, we don't see those people a whole lot of times put the money into the IRA.
Agreed.
It does happen sometimes, but not very regularly.
It's the classic line, pay yourself first.
That's what I was just going to say.
Pay yourself first.
Look at it this way. You go to work for, let's say, 40 hours a week, and let's say you don't dedicate any of those hourlies, the money you've earned, those hours to yourself. You're paying everyone else, every other category, and you don't pay yourself. Like the first Monday.
What are you working for then?
Pay yourself first. Pay for your future. So that's how I always look at it. Okay, number 8. Ooh, I think this is not budgeting as a team. Yeah, I've got a budget, but my partner doesn't know we have one.
Yeah, I think, again, there's always, in our world, we see it, there seems to be a leader of the relationship. There's one that's more involved and actively engaged in the finances. But I do think, spending is equally on both parties. Both parties spend, right? And most of the time, both parties are saving. So there needs to be some type of communication on expectations, especially if you're struggling to meet your budget or you feel like, hey, we're getting in further debt, whatever it might be. It's just having a tougher conversation. It doesn't mean you have to be, nerd out every month, but there needs to be some type of communication between, your partner, who you're saving for, or you're working on a budget with.
I mean, if you're not syncing up financially, you're kind of growing the opposite direction too, because you have two different visions of your life. Like, I don't know what Luke's thinking about what he wants for his life and what he wants to spend and where he sees it if we're not talking about it. So if we sit down, even in the beginning of the year, like, hey, I really want to pay off some debt, or I really want to save a little more, or I'm thinking about retiring. They're just little conversations, and it's really coming together as a team. And again, I think it come back, instead of my why, it's like our why. What are we doing this for?
And I wouldn't, if you're a couple in this situation where you're like, God, I feel like I do everything, my significant other doesn't pay attention to the budget at all, I think the first conversation would be like, hey, what are our goals? Yes. Just life goals. Maybe it's, hey, we both want to retire at 50. Okay, we're going to need to budget a little better if we ever want to do that, because we got to save more. Otherwise, if we just spend everything, we can't, that's never going to happen. And as long as you can find some commonality on the goals, it can translate into the budget side. My best guess in this room is we are the ones looking at the money. And Luke would say it too. He's like, I follow Baileigh's lead, and there is nothing wrong with someone leading the team. It's just like a sports, like you have your coach, you just have your assistant coach with you, putting a little input. You know what I mean? It's however you look at it, just do it together. I actually enjoy when Chelsea asks, and like gets curious about things that we have going on, because I will it'll kind of get siloed at times where I just
'Cause
don't
life
think to
gets
even have the
busy.
conversation. But I've made that a priority when there are bigger financial transactions, of trying to really actively engage
Because they trust
conversation
you,
or
right?
input
It'd be
from her.
easier. Like
Yep.
Luke trusts me. He's like, but I want you to know. And I also think, what if something
Yep.
happens to one of us? We want to be on the same page too. Okay, mistake number 9. We're almost there. Never reviewing the budget trends.
That's something that people really make that mistake a lot, because it does go in cycles. And then we've talked about this in a couple other things, but
They all tie in.
a lot of people spend more money in December because of Christmas. A lot of people spend more money maybe in July,
vacations.
summer vacations. And you don't spend as much money in January, February, when basically here in Iowa, we're all in our houses doing nothing. But
It is miserable.
It's true.
but you're going to know when you're going to go on vacation and when you're going to spend more money. So don't just set up a budget for every month of the year being exactly the same, because
Correct.
it's going to be different.
It's kind of what I do, with my net worth statement, is I see the trends, and now I think I'm looking at a longer lens versus when you budget. I do think it's more monthly, quarterly. So if you're just starting out budgeting, a good exercise would be, again, pulling all your bank transactions and see what you spent month
just research. You're just
over
researching
month
your
for
life.
12 months. And you're like, there might be 2 or 3 months that jump off the page. Like, well, normally we spend 5,000 about on average, but this month we spent 8 or 9
Yes.
or 10. Why was that? Oh, we went on vacation because it was in the summer or whatever it might be. Knowing, and that helps you kind of carve out some of those buckets of like, hey, we do need to have some extra savings somewhere, because we know every July, well, we're gone for a couple weeks and we spend $3,000 or $4,000 extra dollars.
All right, you guys ready for number 10?
Number 10.
Last
I'm gonna
one.
sum this up.
I think this is definitely the most important and the hardest. Relying on the budget without changing habits. So if you've never done a budget and all of a sudden you're going to start doing one, you're probably going to have to change some behavior. And we all know behavior and finances intertwine very deeply.
This is kind of like what Kole gave the example of starting to work out and then going
Yes.
7 days a week.
Yes.
Don't do it all at once, because you most likely won't stay with it. Don't make all these changes in 1 month, or don't come to your wife named Molly and try to make a bunch of changes in 1 month.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You've got to do it a little bit at a time. Now, if you need to make a drastic change, obviously,
Yes, if you're in a bad
if you're in a bad situation, you got to make a drastic change. But making tweaks here, you'd be surprised how many times you can find $500
Yes.
in your budget.
I'm
making
glad you said that.
Small changes.
Most people, when they budget, when the people are like, I don't know where it's going, when you actually budget, you're like, wow, I have an extra 500. I have an extra
Or I
600.
didn't realize we were
We're
spending that much on that.
Yes. And then actually, it's just so, I personally think, relieving to have a budget. Like, it makes me nervous when I don't know where my money's going, but also like the habit. Like, once you get, like you said, you reviewed your annual expenses, you've gotten the behavior. Once you review and it's just second nature to go work out, second nature, just check your budget once a month and talk for 15 minutes with your spouse. You guys are going to be so much more connected, but you're going to feel so much less anxiety about money.
It's building, it's changing your lifestyle.
Yes.
Is really what it is. And you got to start with one habit onto the next, built around the overall objective of what goals you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Do a quick audit of your budget this week and just look at this week and be like, what am I spending? And then look at it in a month. Start small. So I love a good budget. We can help you with a budget. I think it leads to bigger things. Investing, the number one thing people say, I wish I would have invested sooner. Start a budget sooner. I guarantee you'll be investing sooner. So, and if you have budgeted and you want to help our listeners, share your favorite budgeting system on our social media when we post this on our Facebook. Share like, hey, I use this app. I use this Excel sheet. This is what's worked.
We want to hear what people are using.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. And then leave us a review and let us know if you've made any of these mistakes in your budgeting life, because don't feel guilty if you go over just a little bit. We can make it work still, right?
Well, we've all made mistakes with our budgeting too, and so it's something that it happens. And but if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Is that old acronym that we're trying to tell everybody. Don't do that with your budget. And
you will get better, and then you will fail forward if you just try to do it. In honor of Kole P's Cubs, Mr. Cub himself, Ernie Banks, it's a great day for a ball game. Let's play 2.
Go Cubs.
You've been listening to How to Money with Kole and Kole, the podcast of Full Swing Financial Planning. To learn more, visit their website at www.fullswingfinancial.com and follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn.
For now, I'm Kole.
I'm Baileigh.
And I'm Kole.
and we'll see you on the greens. 4.
Security and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.